Good evening. It's Christian Hermit, and I want to try a different approach on this insight that I had last night. That I had a signal grace regarding, like an exclamation point of, "This is important." This thought that I'd had, don't let it go. Delve into this. This is important. I wasn't told that, but the pop that came connected with the energy of the thought and then having a telekinetic effect in the room, which I've had those off and on for years. And they're called signal graces, where the Holy Spirit is signaling, to pay attention to something, and by using some kind of a temporal means to get our attention. But I had written about this to Dr. H because I thought it would be important, or I don't know if important, but of value with his therapy that he does with a whole variety of people. And I was thinking of other situations that it would happen in, and I decided I'm probably going to take the other down because I understood it, how I fit in, how I was being used by evil in all of this, by hanging around with it. There was no way that I was going to really stop the situation or help stop it. I thought I could for a long, long time. And no, there's some things that you can't. Jesus has that scripture um, in uh, in some instances. If you've given your peace, or you've tried with someone for a long time, or even just tried to do your freedom of speech thing, and it gets not accepted, sometimes you have to take back your peace, shake the dust from your sandals, and then move on. So, but I saw it from a totally different spiritual light, spiritual significance involving the devil, because the devil gets into situations and into people. All of us can, and does from time to time in different ways, usually through attempting us to sin, and we fall to sin. But sometimes through sickness, through psychological disorders, through all kinds of methods, or through our own physical sickness or being tired, we're weaker. When we become weaker and we fall prey to the devil's temptations more. The devil's crafty. The devil knows all how he can best snare us, how he can best get us to fall into his trap. Be the devil's prisoner. Try to stick to one metaphor. I was sort of hopping around in the other one, the other video, and so I'd used my experience of that happening, and stayed way too long in it. But I had people encouraging me. It's sort of the good old American fighter in other countries too. It's fortitude. Stay with it. Don't let anyone run you out. Stick with it. Do this and that. When ultimately, in some situations, I'm going to mess with my hair. It is best to sacrifice anything temporal for what ultimately God wants of us, and that is to become pure love, to grow in purity of love, his purity of love, and eventually become one with his purity of love. And it's love that is the most important, and love is the strongest antidote to the devil. God's pure love. Jesus conquered, has power over the devil. Jesus was able to cast out demons because Jesus is love. God is love. And so there's so much to this. It was very exciting for me. So I wrote to Dr. H. Let me get to my phone just rolled, so I have to get back to when I started writing to him about this some last night. And he, over time, he has had people who are suffering and get depressed and don't want to keep going, or people who have had things happen to them, divorces, where one of them or the other is being bullied or mistreated by the spouse or cheated on or any number of things. Or kids that are bullied. He counsels all types of people, and other situations of weaknesses that people get into, or insecurities, or disorders of various types they need help with. Well, they or someone in their family recognizes for them and they agree to go to therapy, or they recognize themselves. So he works with a whole lot of different people. So I wanted to find what I wrote to him about it. Oh dear, did I just lose my spot? Well, I did. So I'd like to use other examples, frankly, than the one that I have been working on and that I realized to get out of it. And then, but I was thinking, well, I'd have to get offline, have to do all this. I already gave over on, just threw in the towel on some other things that upset the person or was in disagreement with. Just it gets to the point where sometimes we do need to throw in the towel, take back our peace, shake the dust from our sandals, which means, now I'm understanding, means shaking off the evil one that has you been using us in a situation, was using me. I just shake off the crud, the demonic dust, and then move on to a different place. I'm in that different place now, mentally, emotionally, and even physically. I'm feeling much better. I'm feeling stronger. And I realize I wasted a lot of time and energy. I did all this praying. It's good to pray, but to pray, to love the person, to understand the person, and to forgive, and then live your life. You don't have to keep beating it with prayer. And yes, we can keep praying for years for people, like for our family and friends. But if it's a situation that's not budging, and if the evil one is involved in the situation, and because we are right there and becoming weakened or part of the net, I'd used an octopus as a metaphor, where the devil uses the main host, the main body of the octopus, uses the octopus as a host, that sea creature, sea animal. And then over time, people who are around the octopus there has all these 8 tentacles, and so will reach out and touch or involve those people, or disagree, or demean those people, or do whatever the octopus does. Abuse, like if it's a family member and there's a sick family member and the devil has moved in on that person, could be a mother or a father, and starts abusing the children around or the elderly grandparents. And, one by one, maybe just one or maybe all of them in different ways. And it's like the tentacles reach out. And at first, the people maybe don't understand, or try to get involved to help, and nothing seems to be working, and they just stick around and they stay with it. The spouse stays in a marriage that's abusive or whatever for a long, long time, has been praying, has sought counseling, all these things. Nothing works. But pretty soon then the spouse becomes the devil. The tentacle affects the person that is close in to the host, the one that the devil is mainly in and using. And the person may not even realize that the devil is using them, has gotten them off course from their marriage vocation. Maybe they're deceiving themselves that they were cheating. Well, it was, I wasn't being treated right by my wife or something, or she didn't meet my needs, or wasn't my fault. This other woman seduced me, and then I fell in love, and I realized maybe I never really did love my wife. I shouldn't have married. All this the devil can feed these thoughts and build up and help the person justify why they aren't right on their vocation properly, aren't focused in a right way with it, aren't making the sacrifices, aren't staying in the spiritual reality of their marriage vows, for example. So, but pretty soon then, the one that's being mistreated and cheated on starts adapting to that and starts lessening any expectations and the vows and thinks, well, I'll put up with this to keep the family together, or, so that our whole lives won't change, or our financial situation won't change, and the children won't have what they would have had otherwise. And on the devil starts feeding these thoughts that we need to stay in something for temporal good, for temporal benefits. Even though, so then, see, the devil then has the spouse, essentially seduced by the devil and trapped. The tentacle has reached out and grabbed it. Then another tentacle gets it that starts working on the children, who start noticing the parental discord, or that things aren't right, or that dad is gone a lot, or overhears the parents talking about the cheating or whatever else, or sees the one parent abuse the other person physically, mentally, emotionally, or verbally. And then the same process works. And especially with children, but if it's an older child, they could get away more, but maybe they think we can fix things. We'll try to fix things. They become a codependent. So they try doing that and nothing works, but they get more and more trying and it doesn't work. And then they get discouraged or upset, or in their trying, the parent then starts taking it out on the child. You're like your mother, or you're like your dad, and so then the devil starts attaching to this child, or the teen, or something, or someone in college that's living at home while they're going to college, trying to get involved, or even out of the home but stepping back in, trying to help the spouse that's not. And so then that person gets taken in by the devil, gets worked on by the devil and involved, and loses their peace but stays in, because we're not going to give up. We can surely get this fixed. We can get this person to change, or to see what they're doing, or to realize that they are under some different force. They don't maybe recognize that the devil's involved at all, any of the family members, or maybe some parents or the in-laws start getting involved, and see how the devil can get a whole slew of secondary prisoners, secondary, by the host person that the devil has worked through, has done a lot of damage through a person. And like I said, maybe the host person doesn't even realize, maybe doesn't even acknowledge that there's a devil. I think Dr. H, he's not comfortable with, what we'd call organized religion. And the devil wouldn't be a term he would use, or maybe he would do forces of darkness, powers of darkness, like this book talks about, angels of light and powers of darkness, or God, or versus the devil. He tends not to. And I think that's maybe partly years of working with so many different people. He doesn't want to alienate anyone with his beliefs, so he's become very neutral. But we've been talking more, and he's fascinated with the paranormal, but he hadn't been, I don't think, as aware of the supernatural realm, the spiritual, and that church, Christianity it is spiritual. It's just the temporal aspects, the temporal world of the church, of all these parishes and all churches, all denominations, there's this temporal element, the world of it, the world aspect, the structure, the the daily interactions that become they can be very worldly, to the point where the spiritual gets lost to many people. So I and most of you guys are ones that are more spiritual. We are spiritually aware people. God created us, everyone, to be spiritual beings. But somehow we were blessed with an extra dose, an extra bunch of spiritual genes in us when we were born or something. So I started writing to him yesterday some of this insight that I had of this very thing. And I recognized myself as a major part of the equation, that I had allowed myself to be used by the devil by hanging in there. And he had actually encouraged, at one point, he figured out, and he says, well, if you do this, this person will stop all this. And he says, it's still going on. He says, how many years? He just was dumbfounded. And I said, well, there's darkness in there, in this situation. There's darkness. But the evil one was using me as part of it. And I knew it. And I had come to a point that I knew I was going to put a stop to it. I was going to I finally realized I have to remove myself from this. No different than a spouse needs to get out of a marriage where the devil has worked so much on the other person in the relationship, has gotten in there and gets such a grab hold that the other spouse, you try the therapy, if you can get the person to go. I finally got mine to go, guilted him or whatever. And I don't remember, but it wasn't easy. Didn't want to, but he did. But then he did. He liked it because there was an audience, and he's a narcissist. So, he could say all these things about me. And finally, one day, the word bully came up, and he went into a rage. And we had people doing their internship through a one-way glass would watch our session with the therapist, with the clinical psychologist. And she says, well, we'll ask the group. You want me to ask the group? She had to get him calmed down, had to drag him literally back because he was leaving in a terrible rage. To be called a bully, that he had bullied me. And that was minor bullying me. It was minor. It's a meek word to use. So, but the whole group said, yes, he has. And, he flipped out all over again. Because up until that time, it had been his stage. and his lies and all these things. I was an unattractive wife. I was fat. Maybe I weighed 7 pounds more than I do now. No, I was not fat. I was a bad mother. I was a bad educator. I was a terrible housekeeper, a horrible cook. I mean, I was a gourmet cook. I'm a creative person. And all these, I was doing it all. And I was worn out, I will tell you that. He didn't say she's tired. I was tired. I was doing my doctorate. He didn't mention that I was a failure at my doctorate because I had all A's. I graduated with top honors. But anyway, it was just, and that session did that, they addressed, and you don't poke the devil. The devil can get really, really way out there. And that was the turning point, though, for our counseling. He was done, he was done, and he didn't want to be married. He didn't want to. Once I was injured as he's also a sociopath. Very intelligent people are sociopaths, and but they are known philanderers and have lied so much that they actually believe their lies. They believe their lies, but the devil goes in and lives in these people, lives in any person that lets themselves be taken over. And pride is a big lead-in. Insecurity, if you're a very insecure person underneath, that is also because the pride that the narcissism fills in because he felt so insecure that he pumped himself up. And he was intelligent. He was hardworking. He had a gift in education administration. He lied a lot to get the jobs, but he had a lot. He also was a person with high energy, but that's all he focused on in his life. Not much in the relationship, and not, other than sex, he liked sex. I did too. And the children, there was nothing going on except if we'd be out and they would have their little soccer games and stuff. Then he could look like Mr. Wonderful Dad. And he'd put on a show like that. So other people, oh, what an involved dad, and on and on. So when we'd be out with other people, when he had an audience, so that was the narcissism. But he needed that to build himself up. And then he rose in the ranks quickly, as was I doing. But I was interested in other things. I was a mother first, and a wife and a mother. But first I belonged to God. And toward the end of the marriage, I had to make that clear, that God came first, then him, the children, the family, and my career last. And with him, it was him first, his career next. Maybe the children, and then me at the end. So, and not even me. Me shared with multiple women. I didn't have any idea how many. So there's an example of how the devil got in. And then the devil actually was working on me through him, because he would beat me down, emotionally and psychologically, and then also was controlling me and threaten if I wanted to do something. I was admitted to law school. I was going to go to law school instead of getting administration degree. I wanted to become a lawyer, and he said if I did that, he'd divorce me. And I was just barely pregnant with with our last child. And no, oh, I didn't want a divorce. So I thought, well, and I said, well, could I get a doctorate in administration? Because I was looking around for programs I could go on weekends. Like, I think it was like 1 week in a month or something. Took a long time, but, I'm a slow but sure kind of person. I didn't care. But I knew that I was not meant for classroom teaching. It was not my personality or my gift. It was not my gift. Um, so yeah, I could do that. He liked the idea of that. That would make him look even greater, and we'd have more income. He wanted more money, and and then we'd have a month off in the summer. But see, even then he had all these other women. He was tricky. He was very clever at hiding all these things, and and I was very naive to and very trusting. But over time, he had me sort of demeaned and insecure, not, I didn't feel that good about myself, and he had me under control. Um, so uh, I had been depleted really as my own person. And so then my whole focus, obviously as a mother, it became rather than him so much, because I knew he was mistreating me. He would say terrible things to me, and in front of other people. We'd be out with other couples or have people over for a dinner party, and he would start just berating me in front of them. Or sometimes even just subtle, but very, very vindictive things. And it became just part of what I sort of thought of myself, but I knew deep down that I wasn't that terrible. And obviously, when it got to things that were obvious, like I knew I was like 127 or 130 pound weight, and I was 5'8", so I knew I wasn't fat. But that's how it happens. But then I became more focused and driven to have something that would build me up. And I always loved school. And then there were other people who were nice in the classes. I went to USC. It was very stimulating. It was a very challenging program. We had top-notch professors. It was very a vacation for me. It was an escape from home. And it made me feel good to achieve and to do well, and to be around other people who would be positive to me, and nice to me. These other people in the classes and the professors liked me. And so it felt good. And then my other big focus, of course, was my children. And they loved me, and I doted on them. When he was gone to meetings and conferences, and a weekend a conference, not, the therapist said, did you really think that an elementary school principal would have all these night meetings? I had. I somehow had. I don't know. I think the devil was doing this also through him, through my husband, getting me and deceiving me. I was deceived. And when she brought it up, I thought, oh, good grief. Now, I did have inner sight a few times. About 3 or 4, at least 3 times, I was highly suspicious that he was having an affair. I kept thinking it was this one person, but no, it ended up he probably had a couple dozen. But I knew of many, many legitimately that he'd had then later. But then it was so painful what God showed me in inner sight, or clues that I would pick up, that I couldn't face it. Well, the devil helped me just blind myself then. Then when I did really know, when he told me, it said he didn't want to be married to me anymore, and he was going to start a new era of honesty. I thought, oh, this will be rich, because by then I had seen lots of lies that he would do. But some of them, they were always very clever, so it could be a lie or maybe not. But he was slipping up because he had so many women going at once. How on earth he ever kept it together, I don't know. Well, the devil helped him. The devil is an angel of darkness. He had help by the demons. But I caught some, I did catch. And I knew, though, not to confront, or he would explode. And I didn't want that around the children. So I just tucked it away and thought, when we get all situated, then, things will improve. Well, that was the devil deceiving me. Because someone like that, it's not going to improve. It's not going to get better. I was the one that insisted we go to church. I did all of that. And he did. He had told me he had been a youth minister. Conveniently, all these things in dating me, knowing how to woo me. He would just match whatever was important to me. He hadn't been a churchgoer. And from the time he left, he never went again. So see, and even in the separation and stuff, and even after we were divorced, I kept praying for him. Finally, my mother said, stop all this praying. She says, pray for other people. She said, you've put in your prayers. God knows that you wish well for his soul. And she was right. See, I was still thinking I could help. I could still, not to get us back together. I knew then, that he was a very evil and malicious person. But I always want the best for souls, other souls. But she had a point. My mom had a point. And I needed to move on. I needed to get to let go and, get my peace back and move on to the next place. So, and shake the dust off, get rid of the devil that had been using me in this situation. Use the host person to get to me. And then through the host person, practically symbiotically, or like the octopus. My ex was an octopus, and one tentacle was on me, one on each of the children, and on some other people. He had more than one woman at once, and some of these women thought they were going to be the chosen one, thinking it was a good thing, and the other ones that eventually got dumped could, if they could understand, to praise God Almighty for that, because see, they were getting deceived and confused, and their pride, one of his staff member or a volunteer, a parent or a PTO president, kids in the school, affairs with them, or district office people. One time he did mess up and had an affair with a school board member's wife. Well, he made out great with that, though. They fired him. It was his first he was a high school principal combo superintendent of the district. It was a very small district in Southern California. And he had an affair with the wrong person, with the wrong school board. His first year, he had a 2-year contract. And they terminated, I wasn't married to him anymore. They terminated him, but they had to buy him out of his contract. He had the 2-year contract. So his whole second year, he could have just laid back and just taken, it was back in 1990, $200,000 for the year. And that's a lot of money then. It was quite something. And he just got that. But then he got hired someplace else. Where did he go from there? I think from there, he hightailed it out of state. I think he knew he was pretty well wiped out, finished up. He had had so many districts in Southern California. So he went up to the San Juan Islands or something, or Washington State, somewhere. And the woman he was with at the time, a teacher from another school, broke up their family. The two of them did. It takes both. But he's clever. I don't blame the woman as much, because the sociopaths are very clever, and they're very charming, intelligent, fun, life at the party, good personalities, and very clever liars. You don't know it really for a long time. They're very good at this. It's very skillful. The devil is very cunning, and the more they're taken over by the devil, the better they are, because the devil is very clever and cunning and deceptive. So we had this other woman deceived and was living with her for, actually I think they lived together for many years, and but he was having other women on the side with her too. The eldest daughter overheard him on a phone with someone. And it was after he had married this last one, the final one eventually. And the daughter had just finished college and decided she'd go visit him, and came back, and she usually never said anything, but she told me that. And that he was cheating on his wife. And it upset her, of course, But I think she realized, it was a validation for me, at least a little bit then. But, that in a way she sort of understood a little bit more. She was older, she was 22 and older, and realized, that there was definitely a reason, and it was best that we weren't together. So, but see how that goes. But I was affected really for a long time. It's hard because the tentacle of this octopus goes on different people around and on these other women that were involved. And then see their husbands. One of them, this PTO president, she had 3 children at his school. It was when he was a principal, first principalship. The husband, it was right away. I mean, like within a week or two of his getting the job and going. He was there for 2 months. I had to get the household, get us moved, so we didn't move down there right away. But he was on the loose there, and he had this woman immediately. His PTO president, brand new position for him. They are fearless. The devil is fearless. And so she would invite us over a lot to their home. We just had a condo at that time. Hadn't done anything and to build or to buy a house or anything. He didn't want to. He wanted to rent for a while. See how we like it. He said, well, I'd see. And then at one point, even then, he said, why don't we get divorced? He wanted to split the children. He says, I'll take this one and you take that one. He had a favorite. He had a favorite child. And and I thought the devil deceived me into thinking that he was joking. Who would, in their right mind, even suggest such a thing? And it just came out of the blue, this divorce thing. It was before when he threatened it again about when I wanted to get the law degree. No, this is the first time. And I thought he was joking, and I just joked around with it. And but the deal is that he wanted me working. We didn't need the money right then, but he wanted me working. I had worked so hard and was worn out, and I'd had 2 children within 19 months of each other, and worked for a year and a half till I had the next one, and then I did take off. But then we had the nursery school house, and I operated that with oversaw it with the director, and I expanded it. I did all this work so that we would make it not just a preschool, but it was by the state granted up to grade 5. We were going to open up more classrooms in the big large Grove house and expand it. And it was a business. We had 11 employees, and I'm trying to think, I think we had 200 students of preschoolers. And then we started the kindergarten class. We started slowly. We're going to build it up. And of course, I was like, did the curriculum, and we upgraded it so much. It was in Claremont. We had all the Claremont professors, little children would come, and I knew they would want excellence. So, and I managed field trips or speakers coming in for these little children of really interesting topics that educators themselves would just love, things that I wanted my children to be exposed to. So it was a classy place, but quaint. We kept it very quaint. And so I worked hard at that. But then he got this job up, wanted to sell, and up and did that. And it was just crazy life. But just stuff like that. So we would go visit his first lady there. And her family, our kids, we'd all get together as a family. It was like every Sunday afternoon. And I noticed how they talked a lot. And I was sort of left, with her husband and the children. And we didn't know each other. And I thought, this is weird. But then I thought, well, she's his PTO president. It's his first position. He's trying to get to know through her who all about the teachers and other women are, and the students, that she was PTO president. But no, they were, and then that's the one I really suspected, though. I mean, it didn't take much, but the devil kept giving me all these reasons why not. And they were very careful. And it was really a ruse, having us like a family things, so that they could be together. They were together all week. They were doing it in his office. I found out later, when after he had his era of honesty, I found out that everyone in the school knew, parents knew. I went back. We'd already moved from that area. I went back and visited with the woman who had, and her mother, who had taken care of our little baby when I had the third one, because he wanted me working. And and she's, oh yeah, we all knew, and that hurt me, though. I thought some of these people I was very close with, and one of the women who knew worked under me. I was the media center director at the high school for a year, 2 years, and she knew all through and didn't say a thing. I should have been told. Because I wouldn't have, that would have been it then. And the sooner would have been better. I wouldn't have been injured to have it happen. But God had to get me away from that. So, but no, the devil really had me deceived at one level, deep down not trusting, but yet it was also too hard to want to believe it, because he certainly enjoyed my body plenty. He might have been a sexaholic or something too, but that's just, how the devil then works through other people. But this woman's husband then, that supposedly broke off. That broke off. But then after he started leaving, other people then saw them again down in this area where we had lived before, out to dinner with them in this little town nearby. So I think he had kept women going. passed beyond when their husbands had found out and thought it was over. He liked succeeding with these plans and these deceptions. That's the devil. The devil is the deceptor. My former husband was the devil. I mean, he had the devil so much in him and using him that he became, and he actually changed in appearance even. Became very unattractive, and when he would get a temper, his face would just get red and puffed up and ugly, and he was only, I was 33 when he left finally for good, after we'd tried counseling and stuff. And he did that just to, I think, to appease any guilt that I'd been through counseling, or I did what she wanted, But he then already had huge, deep wrinkles on his forehead. He looked much, much older. Well, I mean, he was a busy guy. He was busy. And he also I was spared STDs. I don't know how. But the kids, I think, junior high age, and they came home and they said, we're so tired of watching him. It's always scratching himself, Mom. And we saw the medicine he's on. And my daughter, I think the one daughter was in high school, and they said, STDs, Mom, STDs, And it's just, these kids. But as he became superintendent of these major districts, that later on has all this money and this, he lives in a very expensive area now, like a place where people from CA go, stars and wealthy, and luxury condo, all this wealth. They sort of throw it back at me like, but he's so successful. He's so successful, and my son is totally taken with him. Totally taken, and has believed whatever he was told about me, because my son has cut me off. It'll be 2 years in January. It's okay. I understand, because I was deceived. It's easy. So my son was deceived, and at some point, maybe he'll get a divorce with his dad. I don't know, but probably not. Probably not. But it's so many people were affected on the peripheral that the devil got into and deceived also, and fooled and damaged in different ways, took advantage of through my former husband. And I look back now, even while we were married, the people that he did things with, but that they did then in league with him. The devil caused them to fall also. So all these tentacles and the taint and the sin and they become then used by the devil and party to the devil's ways, self-deceived for whatever reasons, and their families. Some of the people probably were broken up and probably never did get back together, the ones that he didn't end up with. And he became very, very perverse with me, wanting to do things, then he tried doing things of threatening me of what would happen if I didn't start doing terrible things. I mean, like, I won't even get into it. And one time I just started crying. I said, no, I can't do that. I went back to the bedroom and just cried and said, I cannot participate in anything like that. I'm not going to even involve myself in anything like that you're into, that he was into, out in the world with different things and perverse things too. But that was when he already had said he didn't want to be married, but he toyed with me for a good maybe 8 months, 7 months. Ironically, he left for good on St. Patrick's Day, and it was a Sunday, and our 1985, and the little girl that was had just turned 6, and she went to school on Monday. They all went to, and the little boy, I had to get into a position where I could earn. I had to get into a classroom job and take anything, and for that semester until we could get moved to a little lesser area, cost of living, and that still had to be in California. It had to get took a long time to get the divorce because he liked to fight. He liked to fight. He was going to destroy me, he said, and take everything, and he about got everything. But he didn't get my soul. I did tell him, "You're not going to get my soul." And that was from the Holy Spirit. I was astounded that I had the courage, or that it even came to mind, and that I uttered it. You may take everything, you may take it all. He said he would take the children, he would take all the possessions, all the furniture, and all the money, of course, he said he was going to take, but the law stopped him with that. But he got away with not having to share his retirement, and he'd stripped mine down. I didn't realize that's when my income's so low. And he cost me the car accident settlement with the drunk kid. He cost me that because he called the lawyer, the kid's lawyer, and said he would testify against me and he would make it convincing and I would get nothing. So, just an evil, evil person to do that. He didn't want to be married. He didn't love me anymore. He said that and he meant it. He just wanted to destroy me. It's this power and control thing that they get into. That's the devil. The devil wanted to destroy me. And he said that. He says, "I'll take the rest of my life and I'll destroy you." And I said, "Well, you may do that. You may take everything and do all that. But I said, you will never get my soul." And he never has. We do have, that's one thing we have that the devil can't take. God allows the devil access to everything else except our intellect and our will. And the intellect and our will compose our souls. That's what our soul is composed of, is the intellect and the will. And the devil doesn't have access to that unless we give it over. But it's very cunning if you're around someone that the devil's in, and if you stay in it too long. And so I have had a few situations in life that I've had to get out of. And I tend to wait too long praying for people. Oh, the neighbor woman that was not a terrible demoniac, but she had the devil. She had some possession going on, but not major. Definitely very oppressed and evil. I prayed for them. I made sacrifices, and offered communion for them, and did all kinds of stuff. And at first, tried to be very kind and nice and generous, but no, the devil was in them, and I had to leave finally. I had a protective order, but that wasn't really very successful. If you ever have had to have one of those, it sort of depends on which deputy comes when you call, whether they go through the paperwork or who they're going to believe, or if they've looked at the paperwork to even know which end is up, because there were 3 adults in that house and just me, and the devil's very, very smart and uses intelligent people as well as non-intelligent. In fact, it's a greater coup for the devil to get a intelligent person. So that is the insight that I had, is that it's not just the person, the one person who's taken over by the devil and is doing things that they often don't recognize they're doing. Most often don't. And get used to living like that. Pawns of the devil, or prisoners of the devil, prisoners of the devil. But then the prisoner of the devil has people around him or her, and they become accessories after the fact. They become participants. The devil, through that host, the prisoner, the devil gets others. Not to the extent, but at least deceived and being a sitting duck and being used by that person. And so not only does the devil have the host person, the main prisoner, the devil has the ones that prisoner is victimizing and doing wrong to, and then has that person that the devil can get his jollies off of trying to take that person down and just harming the person, upsetting the person, confusing the person, misleading the person, stalking, harassing, detracting, demeaning, whatever ways they do it. In my husband's case, charming and deceiving and getting sex out of these people and even money out of some of them. Or some women will do anything to have a man. There was a first grade teacher in one of the districts who, this was after we'd separated, and she took him in. But I knew he wasn't interested in her because he'd had 2 others in the 5 months that, he was coming back and forth between women. I knew he had at least 2 others, plus one that he'd had the year before that I don't think he'd broken it off with yet. His speech therapist in his school, in the district office person. Then he had this first grade teacher that was, he used her in order to have a place to stay. It was very expensive there. And he had this family and this house that we were rented, but it was a costly rental. And so at least he helped pay the rent until it was over. I didn't have all that to do by myself, but after that, and he messed around with the child support, and I was out a lot over the time period. And then he stopped paying for the kids. If the one graduated from high school early, at age 17, it was in court, he was to pay through year 18. And I said, no, it needs to be with college, too, help with college. Oh, that'll work out later. He'll help. No, he didn't help. Not a penny. Not for weddings, not for nothing. And then he would just do just enough out of child support. Maybe skip a whole payment now and then, or part of it over time. So it ended up being thousands of dollars. And so, it affected my kids. They were part of the tentacles. Their lives affected and damaged too. And my son now is an adult. I mean, when he started even sounding like his dad and started bullying me on the phone. And I thought, where is he getting this? Well, I found out later through a daughter. He'd been, her dad had been visiting him a lot and keeping in touch after college on. my son had gotten aligned with them and taken in by him, so that he picked up these traits and this way of treating women. So, yeah, it's this is how it is. And what you have to do, if you're around someone or the devil, there's a devil in someone and they don't realize it, obviously, and they are affecting you in your life, you need to get away soon. Try the normal things that you need to try, but years is no. Even too many months, no. Do what you need to do with praying, loving, forgiving, and then get on with your life and shake the dust. If you realize that the devil has already caused you to be demeaned or confused or upset or creeped out by the person or feeling or maligned or laws broken regarding how they're what they're doing with you, even affecting what you love most, and your affiliation in a church. Even if you need to get out, God will understand. If to get away, so that you're not continually having this octopus tentacle on you from this person who has been, sadly, it's sad and it's unfortunate, but has been deceived by the evil one. It's very sad. And of course we Christians want to help, and we even try, to cast out or do all that. We're not ready yet. So we're not ready. I wasn't ready yet. I didn't have that stature to be able to cast the demon out of the ex-husband or of the neighbors or and you can also say prayers for people like that and ask the Holy Spirit, ask your guardian angel to keep that prayer going perpetually for the person. And then you clear yourself to focus your prayers on others, because you can get sucked in and imprisoned through pride. The devil can work on pride in these secondary tier people, the accessories after the fact to the criminal, to the prisoner. Start feeling like we're strong enough or we're capable enough to be able to help this person. And then we don't want to let go trying. Or it becomes such a noble cause, we don't want to give it up. Or we think, well, if I just try this one more thing, the person will stop. And we didn't even view it as that the devil was really had a grip on this person. And you really think you can get the devil to stop? If that were the case, there would be no demonic problems. There wouldn't be evil in our world. The devil is called powers of darkness for a reason. Power. Has a lot of power. But there's one who has total power over the devil, and that's God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit. And the power they have over is the power of God's pure love, of Jesus' pure love, of the Holy Spirit pure love, of the Trinity. God is pure love. And that's what we're to become is pure love. God's pure love. Has to be God's pure love. not any substitute, not any other type, as good as it might sound, and not anything that the devil is deceiving us with. That, oh, this information or these thoughts, these spiritual paths are true, they're real, no, it's God. And, there's Wiccas, there's witches, there's different people with their different belief systems, and false gods out there. No, it has to be God Almighty. And so, and that's the pure love, that we have to develop a very, very strength in God and in pure love. Keep striving for that. And be willing to sacrifice everything else in our lives, in our temporal world. Nothing is worth it. And God understands. If in order to get away from someone who's taken over, and I'm not saying possessed or even seriously oppressed, it can be very subtle. But if the devil's working through them and then affecting us as a result, it doesn't even at that point really matter what level it is or what you want to call it. You've got, and you haven't had success, there hasn't been a turnaround. And if the person doesn't want to, and the person doesn't see, if the devil has blinded the person and deceived the person, you're not going to be able to get the person away from it. So we have to let go, take back our peace, and move on. Remove ourselves from it. So, and it's a necessary process, and God understands it, what we need to do. And it will be liberating for moving forward, to shake the dust, the devil dust off. Shake the devil dust off that we got by being an accessory to the fact of the main host, the main prisoner of the evil one. And yes, we have compassion and all of it, but we've moved on. We're living our lives, prayed for the person, understood the person, loved the person with God's pure love, and we forgive the person. It's not a time to feel that we can save the world or save these people. God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit does that. But we can love, we can pray, and we can forgive, and we can live our lives under God, one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that means us, too. We're included. And it means for families, for marriages, for employees and employers, friendships. If somebody in our friendship circle has become tricked by the devil, tempted, and fell to it, and you've put in a reasonable amount, a serious, genuine effort, but we're not expected to hang in to the point where we've been deceived thinking that this is going to change things. Now, if you're married, you can get a temporary separation. But if there's abuse going on and the devil's involved and there's children around or elderly parents that are being also mentally, emotionally, psychologically abused. Consider, pray, analyze the situation, discern it, and get help doing that in case you're already deceived, blinded by what you've lived with another person. And then go from there. And you don't have to get a divorce. You can be separated, get a legal separation. And once the children get through college or whatever they need help with, the parents can decide then if they're going to try to work it out, or if they can. However all that works out, work it out with a therapist, work it out with a minister, with your priest, get good counseling, good professional help in these situations. But as I found out, even working with a licensed clinical therapist and these students behind the one-way glass, learning and giving feedback, it can take a long time for some therapists to figure out who's telling the truth and who isn't, and what the situation is. They can't just some gifted ones can, but not always can a clinical psychologist even get the full picture. Depending on how the devil's smarter than the psychologist. Some cases, if the devil's in the person, see, if you get a psychologist who doesn't have evil in him or her, then that's different. Then they can pinpoint stuff very quickly. So I had some other examples in here of this whole metaphor, but I think I've pretty much using a different example. I thought last night, and today, I thought, why use the example that I've just lived through for quite a long time? Why let that have any spotlight on it? I'm going to remove that one because I moved on from it. I let go. I've moved on to the next place. And I've had a lot of backlash from the devil. That's the other thing, these secondary people, the prisoners to the prisoner. That the evil one is the octopus, and all the tentacles are affecting other people around the octopus. And then when the people in these tentacles break free from the tentacles, which is easier than being the octopus and trying to be rid of the devil in you, because that's a huge thing with all these arms. But if just one tentacle is attached to, say, me, and then I finally realize that the devil was also using me through the octopus's tentacle, and I realize I'm out of here. I got to get free from this. And so, yeah, I might have to leave the ocean, because the octopus could come get me. Or I'm so used to it, I'm so used to the ocean environment that I would keep being reminded of the octopus that had me. So it's becomes a metaphor, you understand, but then the situation becomes one of that if you break loose, the devil isn't happy with that, because the devil had the octopus plus all the people involved on all those 8 tentacles of the octopus. So if they leave the tentacle, get away, and move on, then that octopus is not happy. Well, the devil is the one that's not happy, because then you can't control, and you can't do what the devil likes to do through the octopus. It's not the octopus itself that's the devil. No. That's just like all of the people on the tentacles, except stronger, has had a stronger hold. So the devil then becomes enraged, has been poked, has been confronted. I realized that the devil was using me. The devil was using me through this otherwise probably wonderful person, and still wonderful in many ways, probably is. But, or we'll take the example of my ex-husband, that I finally saw. And back then the devil wasn't thrilled either, because the children went. The devil didn't have access to my children. And until later, until the son, until after college. And so then the devil went to work on him. And that's just, but that my son, he didn't see it. He didn't stay clear. He was blinded. His memories were blocked. His memories were blocked. And some stuff that happened to him. And so that can happen. And if my son would leave from the influence, the devil, not my ex-husband, I'm talking the spirit of darkness that's in the ex-husband, and the spirit of darkness that has secondarily gotten the son, my son, then that the devil doesn't want to be stripped of his prisoners. Not the main ones, not the lifers, and not the ones that are secondary. They sort of came as freebies along. Very easy to get. I was very easy. I was an easy catch for the devil in this situation and in other situations in my life. So it's an incredible lesson for me. It was an incredible insight. The reality then of how the devil was lashing at me for the last 4 days or so, and longer actually, but probably for quite a long time, but it got more intense. The closer it came to the devil realizing that I was going to make a break. I was going to make a break for it. And I'm talking about the forces of darkness. Then the devil has done things. My gut attack I had, the just little things around the house that I was trying to do wouldn't work out, and sort of bizarre. Emotional things and thoughts that I had. What was the day? I think it was Saturday. Saturday I had these thoughts, these terrible thoughts that were very sad, very sad. And see, the devil was taking advantage of me, being amping up the decibels of the demonic assaults on me by the devil, by the forces and the evil of darkness. And you have to push through that. It's a storm. It gets to be a violent storm. And you have to keep pushing. And then I had a break today. It was like weights lifted off of me. And I realized I was freed. My guardian angel helped. The Holy Spirit, God, and Jesus. The Virgin Mary helps. I know my mom and dad certainly were helping. They have heard my prayers and my pleas and my thoughts of how am I going to get out of this. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I had to get to the point where I was willing to sacrifice things that mean a lot to me in this temporal world, the spiritual temporal world. And it got down. Of course, you get to the point where you want to be free of being an accessory to the fact of the devil. And it's not, I repeat again, it's not the person that the main prisoner the person has. It's the devil is the thing behind all of this ugliness. The devil is behind it all the evil. So I didn't write out what I didn't share what I wrote to Dr. H, because as I was looking through it here, it's I might talk about it tomorrow. I don't know. It's about using an example of a teenager being bullied, and how you might approach it with explaining to a teen the devil and this process. And like an example of a teen that had a group of girlfriends, like a group of 5 girls, good friends. 2 of them, the devil found weaknesses in them somehow, I don't know how. Then if they drop this one girl, even though she still had like 3 other friends in the group, or 2 other friends with the group, 2 of them turned on her of the 5. This is my hypothetical, to use it in an example with a teenager. And then, I did it sort of like the girl was like me. Couldn't believe that these 2 girls didn't like her anymore, and kept going back, trying to patch things up and trying to build these girls up and have them like her and at least be friends again. They didn't have to agree on everything, but just be friends, be nice to each other, and accept, or at least even just not be mean to her, to the girl. She didn't want these girls being mean to her still, and at all. Even if it wasn't going to go back to how it was before, where they seemed to have liked her, but probably not really, But the devil moved in on them, and they got deceitful, and they loved being mean to her, and they loved the fact that she kept coming back after them. Well, it was not the girls loving it; was the devil in using the girls. The devil loved that because, a lot of people would just let it go. Like, okay, I still have these friends, But others want peace, and especially if they grew up in a certain household type, if they were a codependent or something, that learned to be peacemakers and want friendships, and also if rejection's hard for them, then rejection is like the worst thing, and so they can't take being rejected, so try and try and try to get these 2 to come back, and the teenager doesn't realize at all it's the devil doing it. And what is her odds going to be with the devil without God and pure love being the force and that strength? God is pure love. Well, that's what the girl would want then, if she understood that. There'd be no doubt in her mind. She wouldn't want any of that other. She would drop those 2 like a hot potato, or a twice baked potato that had a lot of black spots in it, and not want to eat it anyway, and just drop it and want pure love. But no, she kept going back and trying to work through it, and trying to, understand it, and get these girls to still be her friend, or at least explain to her why. And they weren't, because they could start seeing that they'd really gotten under her skin. And it was fun for them to taunt, knowing that they still weren't going to. They just kept, it's just more opportunity to reject her over and over and be mean over and over, and to watch her suffer, to watch her be upset and confused, and to take her time. And that, her going after these two that didn't like her anymore, took time away from the girls that were accepting her. Took time away from that. So the girl, she could end up in counseling even with all this problem of, why me? Why don't they like me? And on, and and being rather, well, not rather, but becoming emotionally damaged by it. So there's the devil who's in the two girls, and knowing that, has tainted the girls, has manipulated them, and so that they've become malicious and catty and like all this and like the attention of this girl, keep coming, and then they can just be mean and cut her off or say vicious things to her at school and things when she comes up, wanting to talk, or offering them something, maybe, oh, I saw these and brought these for you, maybe you'd like something like this, little tokens of affection or of friendship, thinking this will soften them, and they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, and I do enjoy you, and I want to be friends with you, and so, just, and the devil's then looking at all this and saying, wow, I've hit pay dirt here. These are free. This girl's a freebie for me. I don't even have to do anything. I don't even have to work on her. I've got her through these other two, the two that I did get, the two that I did have to work to manipulate, which probably wasn't too hard. Teens can probably be pretty easy, especially, if they're catty type girls to begin with, and trend to that, and get into all this popularity stuff, and aren't focused on their studies enough, and don't go to church and don't read the Bible to know how to treat people, maybe from families that aren't all that nice. Maybe their parents are being mean to each other, and they're seeing how that's done, and they're just lashing out because of that. But the devil saw it and moved in on these girls, these mean girls, tricky girls. So here comes this girl repeatedly, and maybe even the therapist would be working, and just ignore them, just focus on the friends you do have. But the devil by then just had such an easy catch, already had her, because she's determined that she's going to get these two back, or at least they're going to explain to her, why they were doing this, why they did that, why they dropped her, so that this is another example of how something like this would be very good for a girl like that, who's being bullied, or a boy, to have it explained about the devil and about God's pure love, and how wondrous that is, and that's what we want. That's what she was feeling when they were all together as a group friends. It was love that she liked, and love that she felt and wanted. And 2 out of the 5 departed, fell out of that circle of love. And she kept thinking she could bring them back, and kept going there, all her energy and time. And then pretty soon, she wasn't thinking about love anymore. She's thinking about winning and getting them back. And then thinking about, why aren't they? All these other things. She'd left love behind as the goal, and as the feeling and the thought and the reality. God is pure love. So if all this could be mapped out and explained to her, from a spiritual viewpoint. Maybe have to use different words than devil and all, because a lot of people are unchurched and don't believe in that. And of course, you don't want to get a teenager all worried about an obsessive or freaked out and scared about some kind of a caricature of the devil they've heard about, that they don't understand that the devil is as a force, is a spirit of darkness, an angel of darkness, an angel that fell. So it's not to fear the devil. You better give some healthy respect to the devil. Not respect to the devil, but in understanding what you're dealing with. And I think situations like this would be ripe for teenagers to understand and be taught. It isn't these two girls that used to be so nice. There's still a lot of merit in them. But the devil got in and caused them to fall. So it's like the teen is really dealing pretty much directly with the devil then at that point. Through the girls, through these prisoners of the devil. So, and that could be a way out for teens in this hypothetical, that if the person understood all that and could realize it's love that what started out being what was so powerful, that made you so happy and feeling so good and enjoying your high school years. Go back to these three remaining, or two others, and then look for somebody else if you want 5 of you. And reach out to others. Look around and see who's alone out there and who would be delighted to be included. But get away from the bullies. And if the person needs to, go to a different school, transfer. Well, go to the adults in the counseling center and have them try to work with the bullies, with the devil who's in the bullies. And if that doesn't work, then get an inter-district transfer to another school. But in that case, then the teen would have to start all over. At least, or maybe that would convince to just be satisfied with these others, and to not let it get too, because what she's trying to recruit back is the evil one, forces of darkness, these angels of darkness that have taken over this other one, and as a result have captured quite handily. It was like the devil was there with his fishing pole, having already caught these 2 girls and hadn't even bothered to put on more bait yet, was just so thrilled having these 2 big fish. And along comes this girl and grabs at the hook without bait on it even. How easy is that? So, these situations, start looking at the situations in your life and the problem areas, and you will find behind a situation or a problem area, there will be people or a person, and behind that person, always dig deeper, always pull back the curtains, see who's behind this outer, and you'll find, I think, in all bad situations, you will find the devil will be behind the final curtain. You'll be looking at the devil. And in my case with my ex-husband, I couldn't bear to pull back curtains. I didn't want to see. But you must have courage and do it. And so God eventually, in that situation with my husband, he forced the curtain open. He had the accident happen. He had me have to see how cruel My husband was, when I'd had an injection at Cedars of Sinai, and he had to be bothered to come pick me up. He was having a meeting, and I waited. They said, when is he coming? They kept calling, and, well, he's not here, he must be on the way. No, he was with some woman having an after school assignment with someone. And I think I waited there like a couple hours, but I was in horrific pain. The injection didn't go well. These injections I used to get in my lumbar would put me in these horrible spinal headaches. And that one at Cedar Sinai back in, would have been late September or probably early October of 1984, was horrific pain. And he finally came, and he was put, oh, I got here as soon as I could, you and your pain. He was not at all a compassionate person. Won't go into stories on that, but he wasn't. He was terrible to me at other times. Got me home. It was maybe by then 7:00. He didn't come till late. I was done by like 3:30, waiting there, maybe 3:00, even waiting and waiting, and all this pain. And the nurses were, the staff at Cedar of Sinai, they were not at all happy. And I think he gave them some charming, I'm this big principal at El Rode or whatever, wherever he was. So, but I was hungry. I hadn't eaten anything for hours and hours, and I was in terrible pain. And I just thought if I could get, even anything, if you would just go to the refrigerator, because I was on the stomach, it was just too painful to get up. And I had been like that. And he refused. He says, it'll just make you more fat. Then I was even more thin. I had dropped down because of all the stress of him not wanting to be married, and kept leaving for weekends. He'd be gone and having sex, and it was just with who knows what women and the children. I had to try to keep up a good face for them. I didn't want them to suffer it. And my parents knew. My mother, she knew something the first time she called on the first Saturday morning that he went off. And even that, he says, he asked me, he says, I just need to go to, he says, I'm going to just be gone this weekend. He says, I've got a hotel. I just need to get away to think things through. I've got to just think things through on my own. And my mom and dad called every Saturday morning, like at 8, how are you guys, And they called, I answered, and somehow my mom says, well, where's Steve? Where's X? And whatever his name. And I said, oh, he's just away. And well, where? I said, well, he had some meetings or a conference. He's is off someplace, and he has a hotel, and for the weekend, gone for the weekend. She says, hotel? What are you talking about? She says, he's with a woman. She says, you've got to, she says, don't be naive. He wouldn't be at a conference for just a weekend, or I don't know how she put it, but somehow she just hit a dead ringer. And I just broke into tears and said, yeah, we're having trouble, and tried to be strong. But I needed their support. I knew we had just moved to that area. He had moved the year before. I had to stay back to sell the house. I had met, by then I had met one really nice friend. And of course he resented that. And I would have met more, but, and I ended up meeting more. through church. I got us involved in church right away. It was a Methodist church there, very nice one in Pacific Palisades. Nice people, good people. They helped me so much toward the end. But yeah, so it's affected my mother went into depression over everything in the divorce afterwards because he kept harassing. He was going to destroy me, so he kept targeting me for terrible things kept happening. And my mother's friends were very worried about her, and my dad was, and so she was one of these affected by the devil that was in my husband. And then even my former husband, the devil was still in him. I wasn't the problem, he had the devil in him. He was still nasty and was nasty afterwards. He was nasty to one of his stepsons, probably all three of the kids, but they don't allow him to visit. They're adults now. And so see how this works. And it's just we have to understand that we've got to get away, and we have to do whatever it takes. I had to move across country finally. He wasn't stopping. It was getting more and more dangerous. He wanted me dead. And he didn't want the children, but he wanted whatever was going to hurt me. So he even tried to get the son, the boy, the youngest, who didn't at all want to be with him when he was growing up because something had happened to him by his dad. And but that's been psychologically blocked, see, as an adult, which happens to kids. Bad things can get blocked, and it's a gift from God when it happens. You don't want it, the psychologist told me, you don't want to try to get it out, get them to remember. If it comes up on their own, then they'll deal with it, and you get, suggest they get help or be a good listener to them. But keep it buried if it's buried, because it's as well to get through life with it buried. And so after college and getting to know him more and whatever he was told, and he believed. So it's my mother finally pulled out of it. Her friends confronted her and said, "You've got to do something about this," And she was very upset then also, and just how much pain I was in and how my life was, my income, everything was shattered. My social life, she had to face I would not remarry. And, it would take a saint, it would have, but she didn't know that God wanted me for his own. I knew that when I was 46, I had that confirmed in a big way. And I never thought or longed for a husband again. Before that, I did. I longed to remarry someone who would really appreciate me and be kind to me and love the children. But there can be issues with that in this day and age. I had darling children and very attractive daughters and a handsome son, and it can be problematic. One of my son's elementary teachers had married another teacher. He had not been married before. She had been divorced. She had 3 children. Or no, she had two girls. And he molested the oldest one, 11-year-old girl. So he's in prison for a long, long, long time. But I thought of that, that sort of, I thought, wishing for something, you could end up with more problems than what you ever would benefit by being married. Because we just don't know. The devil's out there. The devil's real. The devil gets into people. So I've gone on and on about this, but that was the other example. I was mentioning about this and how, but also the other big thing is the devil will backlash on you when you do break away. The longer you have been in the situation, the more the devil will go after you when you break away. And you have to be very strong and just get out and sacrifice whatever you need to sacrifice to get out. Don't give up your soul and stay very close to God as pure love. Don't give up seeking God and his pure love and practicing his pure love. But if even temporarily you have to give up something that you really wanted or have had, you must do so. I had a great support network in the town in California where we lived, and a lovely church, Lutheran church. Very, they got used to me, that the women got calmed down and realized I wasn't at all going to take their husbands. I wasn't after their husbands. And so, I had lovely friendships there and was very active doing things. They loved all the creative things I'd dream up for us to do, even going away parties for people. I would celebrate, create these theme parties and stuff, and that we'd have there at the church. And they had a big field, and they had a private school, so we had all kinds of facilities to have our fun. And and I loved visiting the elderly because, I could lay on the floor and they didn't care and talk, and they loved having visitors. And I had really, really good elderly friends. So it was and my general practitioner doctor there he was like a soul friend. And he never stopped trying to find something that would help me. He really took it hard when this happened to me, because he cared. He was a genuine doctor, and he was a strong Christian. He was the adult Bible study Sunday school teacher, and his dad also would teach. Great teachers of the Bible, great discussions. They would facilitate discussions of different books of the Bible. So, anyway, and he had a lovely wife and children, and I loved observing them. I became fixated, not fixated, but they became my healing family, that I could watch them interact, like at church or something, and at different, we'd have Lenten soup suppers and things. And I knew his mom and dad real well. They took me in sort of as their unofficial daughter, and my children, because my parents didn't live right there. And so, they were just very, very an on-site support network for me, like fill in. But my parents were extremely wonderful, calling and helping financially, and it was just, and I paid back some things, but then other things they refused. But at first, until I got disability, which was a battle, and if they would do something that was more major, then I could pay them back later. But they were very generous, and if I had to borrow a loan, and I would insist on interest, but my dad then in the end would say no interest. I'm not taking interest, and just really wonderful parents. At first, they, we all had these naive ideas about the court system, and it crushed my parents that it isn't, at least in California. It was so backlogged, and it was so much corruption and things, and it wasn't as it was supposed to be. And my own lawyers sold me down the river. So they got so sick and tired of the ex-husband, they just wanted it over with. And so I never did get help with college for the kids, and I never got his part of retirement. And he had sold out my retirement, so all I had was like 2.5 years. And that's what my disability is based on, whatever was in your retirement, certain percent. That's why my income is poverty level. So my parents finally realized, that it's not like how the law says it's supposed to be. No, that's the world. That's the world we live in. God bless his real presence in us. And I know you'll have experiences now to get yourself out of things. Keep going and take the flack from the devil and keep pushing through anyway. Don't let it get to you. And the lashings, because the devil won't want you to leave the situation that is bad. And but you must. But don't stay in too long to begin with. That just gives the devil more time to attach to you through the prisoner he already has. So at least I didn't stay long in the marriage after he started leaving. And God did a lot with that, but I stopped believing anything, but I was willing, I was civil, I was kind, but I was not controllable anymore. I realized that I'd given over a lot of my will and intellect to him. Not my soul total, but I'd given over my emotions and my strength and my self-esteem, and out of fear of facing life alone, and mostly what it was going to do to my children's lives to not have a father in the home. And he wasn't horrible to them. He just wasn't that much, actually, which was sort of a good thing. But on the weekends, though, he was so much fun with them when there were people around. So they missed that. See, they missed that. But they didn't miss, he had become very mean and not good to them either, because he didn't really want them. As it turned out, he didn't. The only reason he realized he had them as possessions, and he loved them in his own way. In his own way, I'm being nice here, but he did. He just didn't have a capacity for a healthy kind of love. Too much evil. Too much evil. He was overtaken. So, anyway, just hang in and don't stay too long in situations that the devil is using a person, because you'll be pulled in and used also by the devil, and then that makes it even more confusing to see your way out. Sweet dreams or sweet days.